Well, Matilda Raynolds, this is a big one. I know how much you love the Melbourne to Warrnambool, the ProVelo Super League Road to the World Tour. This is one of the historic events that is part of the league and Tills. We've got some big guests. We've got Mark O'Brien, defending champion in the men's event. Big John Carter, he can only be referred to as Big John Carter. It's never just John Carter. Sarah Gigante to talk to us about the Warnie, and Pat Shaw on the Praties team and what to expect from them. But you've won it twice. You've been on the podium another couple of times. I know you love it.
I know. Happy Melbourne to Warrnambool week for everyone that celebrates. This is one of the best weeks in Australian cycling. And it just caps off such a brilliant summer of cycling, I find, for Australia. And what an incredible field we've got for this year as well. You know, to have the men's race and then, of course, now the standalone women's race in its fourth year. And I love this week. This is the first time since I've sort of really started cycling at a high level that I'm not racing. I will be in the commentary box with you, but I'm already putting in my leave format for next year. I think I've got to come back to this race. I'm full of envy and FOMO.
Like, fair enough. I thought that you might have been done with winning it twice and let somebody else have a go. So on Saturday in commentary, we're going to be joined by Nick Owen, who coaches plenty of the athletes who will be in the race, along with Luke Plapp and Ruby Roseman Gannon. And then for the women's race, Sarah Gigante is going to join us in commentary, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and what two fantastic gets, and they can just provide so much insight into what's happening in the peloton. Nick Owen, he coaches many of the domestic field as well. He's done the Melbourne to Warnie many times. He was thinking about doing this year, Matt, and it didn't take him much convincing to get off that start list and join us in the commentary booth. And then, of course, the much loved Sarah Gigante, she will be joining us on the women's race. And I think we know with this race as well, Matt, there's a lot of sections where we drop out of coverage. So I've already worded up Nick Owen to have his latest, tech and his latest science and sports science ready. So you're going to be watching the Melbourne Warnie and hopefully going home with a lot of intel on your racing and training as well from these two stars.
Okay, so no pressure, Nick and Sarah. Before we get into dissecting the Melbourne to Warrnambool and previewing it with the guests that we've got lined up, who caught your eye across the summer of cycling in the Tour Down Under and the Cadell race that we're going to see in action in the ProVelo Super League?
Yeah, well, absolutely. It goes without saying. I think it's an easy pick in Alyssa Pilates. I think what I loved about Alyssa and, of course, some of the other athletes we want to go to like Ali Anderson, Ollie Bledden, Fergus Browning, those athletes, what I loved from that is that they didn't die wondering. They absolutely took every opportunity they could. And I just love that when talent meets opportunity, and I know that they've got a lot of people believing in them in the moment as well. And so I think for Alyssa, it could have gone wrong. She could have crashed. It could be over on stage one, but she made it work and she really went after it. And I don't think if you were to tell her, hey, you're going to come away with a World Tour Cure M jersey, Tour jersey, she would absolutely have grabbed that with both hands. So yeah, I'd love to see it. But how about you, Matt? You were there on the ground so much. Who really stood out for you?
Yeah, before we get to that, Alyssa Pilates, she did crash, unfortunately, on Saturday in the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. So fingers crossed, Alyssa, that you are okay and you're 100% for Sunday's race, which is from Colac through to Warrnambool. So the two that caught my eye were pretty quiet when it came to TV time, and they rode a really similar race. Emily Dixon in the women's and Zach Marriage in the men's. So Emily Dixon, she finished 23rd in the general classification. She was about 2 minutes and 40-odd seconds down. And she was in around riders like Amber Pate was 1 second in front of her. Ali Wollaston was maybe a couple of seconds behind her. So she was really quiet in terms of the amount of TV time. But she's 18 years of age. She's just out of the juniors. So she was really impressive. And it's the first time that I've been able to see her race. So I've got really high expectations without putting any pressure on. But really high hopes might be a better way to put it for her over the next couple of years. And Zach Marriage in the men's. And Zach's going to be in action on the weekend, on Saturday. He's won the Graft and the Inverell before, so we know he can go the distance. And he finished second in the race for the Best Young Riders jersey. And he was 15 seconds behind Albert Phillipson from Liedel-Trek, who's young rising star of the sport. So they're the two that really stood out to me.
Yeah, he had an absolutely fantastic Wollonga stage, didn't he? And I just love that he put it all on the line for that as well. And so I think what's so great about all of those riders is that they weren't just impressing us. I think they were impressing a lot of the, the people that they're trying to get signed to in the World Tour.
Yeah, and so this is all about that Road to the World Tour. So let's take a look at the standings as they are now after only one race. So really, this is just a reminder of what happened at the SA Kick-It. And at the top of the table, quite obviously, it's the winner of those opening couple of rounds. And the graphic is going to come up in just a moment. We've got the men's. It is Brendan Davids who leads. It's ahead of then Jack Ward. Jack Ward has himself as the leader of the under-23 classification. We've got also another couple of under-23s inside that top 10. Note ninth position, Connor Wright. He's got the 2 asterisks next to his name, so he's an under-19. He's not going to be able to race on Saturday, Tills.
Yeah, it's such a long distance. I don't think they can get UCI approval just for that, to be able to do that as well. But such young talent that came through there, and it's a very, very different race on Sunday, Matt. I'll be really interested in how, the winners of the time trial who really carried it through for the criteriums and sort of the Camise at the SA Kick-It can perform on this event.
Yeah, and a guy like Jack Ward, I think he's going to be fine because he's shown himself over 200-plus kilometre races before. In the women's, Talia Appleton leads. Sophie Ma is in second spot. Sophia Salmons is in third position. And all three of them, Tills, are eligible for the under-23 category, which is the fight for that spot with a development team contract with Liverpool Jaco in the women's category.
Wow, we're going to talk to Pat Shaw, Matt, and he's got his hands full on who gets the run here. But I think it's just going to be take your opportunities. Whoever gets up the road, obviously that's what they're going to support. And yeah, like there could be a little bit of in-team battling there as well. So it'll be interesting how that plays out. But they're going to have a lot of competition for this particular event in the Melbourne to Warrnambool. It'll play out very differently from what they saw at the SA Kick-It.
Yeah, it can be really hard. So the top 3, all under 23 and all on Praties. So Pat Shaw is going to join us a little later. Pat, we're looking forward to having that discussion with you. We're about to be joined by Mark O'Brien, who won the race last year. But if you are down in Warrnambool, there is a Legends of Cycling function, courtesy of 3YBFM, which is the main radio station down in Warrnambool. Jethro from WA, he's going to be doing the hosting. He's going to be asking all the questions. Matt Wilson, who created the ProVelo Super League, Australian champion, rode the Tour de France twice. He's going to be one of the people getting interviewed. And a name, Tills, I'm sure you're probably not familiar with, Terry Stacey. He hails from Geelong. He won the fastest time in the Melbourne and Warrnambool in 1977 and 1978. And I got to race against him in the mid-1990s. He'd retired for 5, maybe even 10 years. And he came back in his early 40s and started racing again in the mid-1990s. And all the older guys were saying, watch out for Stace. This guy's really good. And he was real good. And he was one of those people that was kind of like when a guy like Tom Leaper started racing again. And here's a guy that's ridden the Giro, and now you can learn from him. And he's going to be inducted into the Melbourne and Warrnambool Hall of Fame on that night. So I think that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a really good lead-in for Mark O'Brien, actually. This guy's come back in his 40s. But look, I think for a fantastic dinner, and I think just supporting the event, supporting the Melbourne to Warrnambool any way you can, I think is such a huge help. What they've done, the Powercor team who have sponsoring this event, they've done a fantastic job, Karen Jones and her team. So get on down there. You can click on that link, trybooking.com, and find out all the details there for the Legends Dinner.
And let's find out who's going to win it this year by talking to last year's winner, Marco O'Brien. Here he comes. Marco, could you look any more relaxed?
I'm still at the beach, Keno. I'm still living my best life across here in Adelaide.
Are you really?
Yeah. I've still I've had a couple of weeks of only half working, so I'm literally looking out the window at the sun going down in not too long, and I'll be driving back to Melbourne tomorrow.
So you're trying to do this the reverse to last year, because last year you rode to Warrnambool and your wife flew to Adelaide, and then you picked the car up and you kept going.
Yeah, pretty much. So this year, the way it fell, my nephew was starting school this year, so Mum and Dad moved their holiday a little bit earlier again, back into overlapping with TDU, which was quite nice. So come and schmooze a perfect beach holiday, and a lot of bike riding, plenty of wine with the family, and some really nice time at the beach with my son. So it's been really good.
We're looking at some images. Hey, sorry, Tills. We're looking at some images of last year's race. There was lots of crashes earlier, which you managed to avoid. What's it like looking back for yourself, reminiscing on that victory from last year?
Oh, I was actually super close to a couple of those crashes last year. I had The big one on the highway, I somehow threaded the needle with guys falling both sides of me. And then I remember in the feed zone as well later on, I saw a bottle rolling perfect trajectory for the rider in front of me. So I already started turning left before he hit it and went flying across with him in his arm. So it's a real part of the Warnie is actually surviving early on, because it can be quite sketchy with the big bunch moving quite quickly. It's relatively easy to be sitting in, and then you got to have a lot of things fall your way before you even get a chance to look at trying to win the race, unless you're Teals and won it twice, of course.
Oh, come on. Marco, now I see you. You're like pulling some Norwegian method down there in Adelaide. You're posting some big Strava rides. You're trying to psych out the competition. I saw you were second up the KOM up Green Hill, I think it is, just behind Chris Harper's time. What's going on down there? How are you feeling? Are you coming into form, or are you already feeling like done too much?
No, I'm going well, Till, so I feel good. But I felt good. I've ridden it 13 times. This will be 14th, and it would have been at least 10 times where I felt strong enough to win it and didn't get a real look in. So said I need a lot of things to fall my way, because as we know, if I'm not going solo to the end, I'm not winning. So you need a lot of things to happen before you even get a chance to show your legs, even get into that business end. So form-wise, I'll be going well enough to win it. But so many things can happen before you even get a chance to have a crack at it. But anyway, I wanted to go in and be riding really well and trying to give myself the best possible chance. And with a few of my mates, we started up a little team called Trappist as well. So it'd be quite cool flying those colours. I mean, the colours are so great that Jaco copied our team kit. So we did well.
Nice. So tell us about, you've got a couple of strong riders on that team. Tell us about the key riders on the team and the people that you believe you need to beat, your biggest threats to try and stop you from winning it back to back.
Well, in our team, we're mainly just a group of mates predominantly. We're doing just a bit of a laugh and doing a few gravel and CX races. But then I've actually been coaching Rudy Porter the last couple of months up to TDU and Cadell. So I've called in the favour and said, all right, Rudy, you can come and return the favour for the Warnie. But he's definitely going well enough to win it. So I think Rudy, with so many strong riders here, I think Rudy will be a really good man to have on my side, because if he gets up the road, that sort of takes the pressure off. And I mean, he can easily win it in his own right this year. So I think from our point of view at Trappist, Rudy and I will sort of be the two that have a chance to sort of mix it. But then in terms of the rest of the field, there's just so many guys. I had a big motor pacing session with Timmy Decker on the weekend with four of his boys from Brennan, and they're between Brendan Davids, Blake Agnoletto, Tristan Saunders. Those guys are all flying. I was really hoping that one of them would fall apart towards the end of the ride, and just to give me that morale boost. But we'll still rip him back up the gorge after over 200k, and everyone was still looking rock solid. So I know that all three of those guys can win it. Tynan Shannon smoked it at SA Kick-It as well. I know that David was sitting on him for the last lap around there. And he still ran second over all there. So this suits Tynan really, really well. Zach Marriage flying as well for the Butterfields boys. So you can't, obviously you can't let Zach have any rope as well, because he'll be going World Tour, I dare say, next year as well, like with how he's been riding. It's pretty incredible to watch at the National Madison Championship as well, when he won that with Ollie Bledlin. Outside of those guys, there's a whole heap. But I think for me, one of the big guys that no one's talking about is Kean Watts, who'll be riding as an individual rider, Israel Conti team. He went and blew up the hell ride on the weekend, I was told, and I know a few weeks ago I was out there with him, and he's got some incredible watts. So Kean, if he gets any sort of rope, then he's gone. He's so strong. So I'll be hopefully get up there over Kean, let him tow me along a bit. I'd be real happy with that. But he's quite rapid as well. But there's too many guys in here to really focus on anyone. Cyrus Monk will be flying. He loves a long, hard race breakaway. There's crosswinds, Si will be there. So I could keep rolling off names all day long, and then the whole race will be completely different to what you expect. And there'll be years where a breakaway goes in that first 5-10K and never to be seen again. It takes 15 minutes. And then other years will be a death march where it's going down the gutter in every single section possible. And it's coming in the finishing ones and twos, which is an ideal scenario for me. But you need a lot of things to happen and fall your way before I guess you're looking at that win and hopefully actually getting into the business end of the race still feeling okay.
And in all of that, Tills, he's failed to mention Hamish McKenzie, who's with the development squad for Jacob Alula. And you haven't mentioned Cameron Scott, who's won the race previously and spent the last couple of years at World Tour. And an Olympic Games gold medal doesn't get Connor Lay an option to get a mention from Mark O'Brien either. It's a fair field, Tills.
I think with the whole Ccache team, like there's realistically the two strongest teams. You got Ccache and Brennan, I think, on paper. There's a few other wild cards in there that'll still be really, really strong. And then the Royal Bikes boys will be really good. I've seen a couple of strong guys in Cobra 9 as well. So I think, as I said, I could roll off the whole start list and say there's any guy could win it. I think Cam looked a little bit flat by the end of TDU and Cadell's. Cam Scott, that is. But if he give him a sniff, he'll blow everyone's doors off at the finish. I mean, he was competitive in some big sprints over in Europe over the last couple of years. So I think, certainly I wouldn't want to be going towards the end with Cam. Hamish, I wasn't actually aware that he was on the start list, so it'll be interesting to see how he was going. He was on the chop in Adelaide during TDU and looked quite strong as well. So, it's once again that thing of there's so many things you need to have for your way, even if it is the breakaway that goes early on. If you get away with guys like Connor Lay, well, he did run out of legs with Durbo at Nationals, but I think when you hear Durbo averaging something like 370 or 380 watts for 4 hours, I think most people would have ran out of legs pretty quickly. So I know Connor had a real focus on this after coming off the track, but I haven't had any reference points to actually see how Connor's rolling, and wasn't on the bunch last weekend when I was here over in Adelaide as well. So I haven't had a reference point of how Connor's going, but as it comes down to the last 4K, I wouldn't be that confident in coming around him.
Oh, Marco, well, I bet you would have been trying to nose breathe every time you were doing those rolls on Decker's training session. Thank you so much for joining us. You're a wealth of experience. I know we could talk to you for another hour, but we will see you out there. We know it's going to be a show, and good luck for Saturday.
No worries. Thanks a lot, guys. Much appreciated,
Marco.
guys. Have a great night. See you later. Bye.
You know what I forgot to ask him, Tills? I forgot to ask him. What about all the other guys in the race that you're coaching? So we're going to have to get that list.
I wanted to ask him that, but we had to. We've got Big John Carter waiting in the green room. I wanted to ask him what would your advice be for all these guys. So we'll have to get that next time. But yeah, Big John Carter is joining us from Ccache-Bodywrap. He had a huge nationals. He won the under-23 crit. John, thanks so much for joining us. Is this your first Warnie?
Hey guys, pleasure to be here. First Warnie, first race that length as well. So completely in the dark really, but
before we move on,
before
we move on, Tills, we've got to ask the most important question. Have you ever heard your name announced without Big before?
It does tend to be the moniker before my name, absolutely, yeah.
How big are you? How tall are you?
1.92 m.
Okay, you've got me by a centimetre. What do you weigh, if you don't mind me asking?
It tends to change a bit depending on the training, but around 85 at the moment.
There you go, Tills. Big John Carter. That's why he's
got the name. That is some big watts. John, we've seen a huge range of riders win this event. Nathan Elliott, Jensen Plowright, Big Jensen Plowright, and Mark O'Brien, two completely different body profiles, have been successful at this event. How are you feeling about the Warnie? How's your approach for Saturday?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I think it does suit me. Long race requires a big engine, and I've been putting in the training cage in the last few weeks here in Perth, beautiful Perth, and I'm feeling pretty good for it, I reckon.
You've got an incredible team.
You go, mate. Yeah,
you've got an incredible team. Like that lineup, one of the challenges in this whole league is deciding who you're going to work for. I mean, you've got a guy that's won it before. You've got Olympic Games gold medalist. Who's making the decisions?
Well, I think you just got to play it by ear and see how it goes out there. As you said before, see who gets up the road, see how the race is going. At the end of the day, we got Sammy on the radio in the ears telling us what to do. So I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash, and we'll end up as having a good team result at the end of the day.
The pressure's on, Sam. You've got some big decisions to make. We asked Mark O'Brien the question about who he sees as the other riders to watch. Who do you see as the three big favourites for the race?
Well, you got to go back, look at previous winners, really. We just heard from Mark O'Brien, and then there's Tristan Saunders, of course, and Cam Scott. He's come back to do it again. So, I mean, like Marco said, you could list off the whole start list, but those three are definitely a good start.
How does the race need to play out for you to win? What's your ideal race scenario? I'm sure you've heard some war stories about the crosswinds, the splits, the breakaways, how this event's been won. In your ideal world, how does this race play out for you to be the first across the line?
I think there's a couple of different scenarios. Don't mind the all-day breakaway kind of go, or just a big split in the crosswinds towards the end. I think that would suit me as well, just to make it a positioning game and just a big wattage battle. But at the end of the day, I just think there's so many different ways it could go that I'm just going to have to play it by ear and just race intuitively.
All right, before we let you go, you might want to go solo, you might not go solo. What about the National Championships in Perth? There's a guy from Perth. Talk us through it, the final part of the lap that got you there and you end up taking the win.
It was really mega. Home crowd, I could hear everyone yelling my name every corner for the whole race. And as you're coming down the last lap, you got everyone screaming just that little bit louder. And then I got into a position there behind Leo. And just coming out the corner, I knew I had a good run at the wheel, and I knew I'd got it once I started coming around him. And that was really special to win at home in front of the crowd.
It was a huge week of racing, and to see what a performance Perth put on as a city and the organisation, it must have made everybody from WA super proud. I know there's going to be plenty of Western Australian contenders in the Melbourne Warrnambool. Thanks for your time, and maybe we'll be calling you across the finish line on Raglan Parade on Saturday. Good luck.
That would be awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
They've got a super strong team, Tills, and as you mentioned there, they've got Cam Scott, who's won the race before, Connor Lay, who we don't know. How does he go from 3 minutes and 40 seconds to about 6 hours and 40 minutes? And then there's John himself, who's one of the riders on that team, who's eligible for the under 23s, and the team's obviously invested in him long term.
Yeah, and there's just so many options, I think, for that team. And this is a race that the race can really be dictated to. When Marco was talking, it really depends on who makes up that breakaway, because if too many key riders get into that breakaway, it could definitely go all day, Matt.
All right, before we move on to the women's, because Sarah Gigante is ready to go, a couple of special mentions of people who are on the start list that Tills will not win this race, but they're worth a mention. Ryan O'Keefe. Do you follow your footy at all? Norm Smith medalist, dual premiership player, more than 260 games for the Swans, and he's been working in cycling since retired. He's been doing about 20,000 Ks per year. He's on the start line. I love it.
Keno, I have PTSD when you mention and I see Ryan O'Keefe. I was suffering on his wheel coming back from Wollonga. He just dragged me home all day, which he did last year as well. He is an absolute engine. He only goes one speed. That speed's very high, but he can do it all day. So there's a great Sydney crew coming down here for this event, and they're getting really around it. They get this opportunity, Matt, where they get to race the pros. It's such a unique event where the age groupers are in with the elite athletes. Yeah,
and I love seeing a guy that's been at the top of one sport have that almost teenage exuberance coming into another sport when he's in his 40s. I think he's 44. He actually has the same birthday as me, but there's a couple of years difference in there. So happy birthday for the 24th of Jan to Ryan O'Keefe, and good luck on Saturday. Well, let's talk to one of the stars of Australian cycling. Unfortunately, she's in recovery mode at the moment, as she had a super season last year, and let's hope that she bounces back. Sarah Gigante is with us. And Sarah, you're going to be making your commentary debut on Sunday. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. One person I have to add for the men's preview is Dylan Lindsay. Have we had a father-son combination win the Melbourne to Warrnambool before? Because his dad won it in 1983.
Yeah, so Pat Shaw, his dad won it in the 70s. I think Pat finished second. But he didn't count. But that doesn't count. So no, it doesn't count. So maybe. So you're not biased at all about Dylan?
Not at all. But he did tell me when he was riding, he coaches Fergus Browning as well. And I mean, if he can coach Fergus to such good form, no reason he can't coach himself to it as well. And he got a 20-minute power PB up Green Hill last week. Not to spill your secrets, Dylan, but yeah, he's in good form.
So watch this space. I love it. Tills, we've recruited well for commentary on the weekend, haven't we?
Yeah. We actually got her for the Sunday race there. So that was your one shout out for the men's. The Sunday event now says you coach a number of the athletes that we're actually going to be seeing on Sunday, which a lot of people may not realize. And obviously, a lot of the riders in the women's field. Who do you think is going to have the big impact on the day?
Yeah, I was going through the start list and it's really stacked. It's hard to pick out some names out of such a good field, but I have narrowed it down to 4 riders. So Adette Lynch, Alyssa Pilates, Sophie Ma, and Keely Bennett. I think similar to how Mark O'Brien, he won it last year, the Warrnambool, and then wanted to enter nationals and couldn't. Keely did enter nationals, but she had a mechanical in the road race and wasn't able to finish because of that. And I know that she's pinned all her hopes on the summer of cycling this year after racing overseas the last 2 years. So I think she's in really good form and will be super keen to really show that form. So I can just imagine the frustration coming out into a good result. Alyssa Pilates, she was in such good form at the Tour Down Under. So good to see her take that QOM jersey. The only question is how she'll bounce back from her crash at Cadell's, where she wasn't able to finish due to a concussion. So fingers crossed she can race and race well. Sophie Ma, first in stage 2 and second in stage 3 at SA Kick-It, whereas Adette came first in stage 3 and second in stage 2. So they're 2 very closely matched riders, both with a really fast kick. I do think Sophie has the edge when it comes to team support, though. So, yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah, so on team support, we're looking at some of the images from last year, where it was Lucy Stewart who got the win. And this is Sophia Salmons, who was in the break with her, and she actually cramped with about, I think it was maybe 20 or 30 Ks to go. And Sophia Salmons, she was in the break again at the National Championships this year with Lucy Stewart. She rode really smart and followed her, but she cramped again on the final climb. Any tips for her, Sarah?
Oh, I'm lucky. I've never cramped in my life. I think once in bed I cramped. But yeah, touch wood, that hasn't happened to me on the bike. I don't know, maybe just electrolytes, and hopefully she's been doing lots of heat training in Perth. I actually have to check out the weather forecast. I heard there were going to be cross-tail winds, though, on Saturday at least. So that was thanks to your podcast, Tills. Another year in the legs for Sophia, and everyone's seen her Instagram reels shortly. So she's definitely trained hard enough.
Yeah, well, I've got a question for you about Keely Bennett. So she's actually saw her out training today. I spotted her at the end of the boulevard. She's made the decision not to go with the Praties team. She was with them last year, and she's riding with the Duda squad. So there's with your Brunswick connection once again. Do you think not having one of the big teams around will actually free her up and give her more chance, or will it reduce her chances of winning?
Yeah, I think it could increase them, actually, because as I said, Sophie Ma does have a really strong team around her, but Talia Appleton is on that team. She's leading the overall series, and we know she's put all her eggs in the basket to try and win the contract. So, of course, the team wants to support her as well. We've got Frankie Hall in that team, who's come all the way from Great Britain to race the ProVelo Super League. She was only 10 seconds off the GC win at SA Kick-It, and yeah, she races track. I saw she did the London 3-day, and she used to be a DS at Drops Le Col, so she's fast and a fast thinker. So, yeah, so many options on that team, and that, of course, that means the team chances are very high of a win, but of each particular rider, yeah, maybe a bit lower. So I'm definitely excited for Keely.
Says, moving on to some other big cycling news at the moment, we've had the Zwift Academy finalists announced. Emily Dixon, and Emma Oka. You've actually had a number of athletes in the field as well. Talk me through these riders.
Yeah, it's so great to see 2 Australians in the Zwift Academy finals on the women's side. We see how well Neve Bradbury has gone through the ranks at Canyon SRAM Racing, and of course Jess Pratt also won it in the past. The men have been wonderful as well. So yeah, I really hope one of the Australians walks away, and I'm biased. I coach Emma, so I wish her all the best, all the very best. She's a hard worker, although she has been juggling cycling with year 12 until very recently. So her potential is incredible. She doesn't train many hours per week. She's just, really hardworking when she does train.
How many people are you coaching?
Oh, not so many. Actually, hit me up if you want some coaching. I have a bit of time on my hands.
What do you like at coaching somebody to do park run on a Saturday morning? I need like a good 5 kilometre running effort.
Oh, no, I love all levels, actually, from aspiring pros to people just wanting to complete I had one guy come to me because he wanted to ride up the 1 in 20. So he wanted to start with indoor riding and then slowly make his way up to, just to be able to ride up outside in the Nong. So, whatever the level is, I just love it when someone comes with goals and passion and ambition.
Okay, here's you when you were younger. This is footage of you. Can you remember this race?
I do remember that race. That was straight after the lockdowns. What was it? Tour of Tweed? That was the best week of my life. Like, it felt so nice to race again. I was racing for, Team Tipco Silicon Valley Bank, but pretty much spent the whole year on Zwift. So that was a really nice race. I remember that day in particular. I'm pretty sure that's when I did like this crazy, really long solo breakaway in the heat. I almost died, but it was so fun.
That sounds familiar, doesn't it, Tills, from Sarah Gigante?
I was in that race as well. There were 2 races going on at that week, man. And actually what happened that week, it was a crazy week. We couldn't do the whole week, but essentially after COVID, the organisers of sort of the Battle of the Border put on almost like an entire week of racing, which was just absolutely fantastic. And, but we've hardly seen this sort of footage. We only get this rare footage here of Sayers winning the Nationals at 18. I think 18, 19 Sayers, 18, you were surprised. Yeah. And so I think one thing that what we've just seen is Lucy Stewart win the Nationals. She was the Melbourne Warrnambool winner last year. Is there any advice you'd give her, Sayers, as such a young winner of the national jersey?
Yeah, I think just enjoy the fact that you won the national championships. Whatever you do this year, it's already an incredible year and something you'll be able to look back on fondly forever. You'll always have those stripes on your sleeves. And it's easier to say it than do it, but try not to let the pressure get to you. I remember I would often feel like, I went to Europe for the first time, racing in Belgium, and sometimes I felt like, oh no, the cameras are on me at the back wearing the green and gold, I stand out. So just be proud of it because you're the Australian champion and you won that race, and no matter what, you're doing amazingly.
That is fantastic advice. Before we let you go, Sarah, how's your recovery going and what's the process from here?
Oh yeah, super well. Today I went for my 3rd outdoor ride, but first one to the hills. So first one off Beach Road. Maybe today's the one that counted. It felt amazing. I'm on a gravel bike, thanks to Specialized Australia. So I'm a bit more upright than normal, and I'm also, it's more like rehab than training and just enjoying myself on the bike. So definitely no intervals or power targets, but I'm just loving being back. I started with, first just lying down, then walking around, first shuffling, then walking, then elliptical, indoor cycling, and now finally I get to feel the wind in my face again, and I couldn't be happier.
Do you think you'll race by the end of the season?
Oh yeah, I watched the Tour de France route presentation before I knew anything about my diagnosis, and I was super excited for Col de la Madeleine. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but
no, you're not.
I
Perfect.
think there were about 3 weeks where I didn't really think about that mountain, and then straight back to it. So I'm hoping I can still get selected and still be fit and flying by July. But of course, we'll see. That's a big goal. I think if I can get back to Europe, healthy, pain-free and strong this year, that will already be a success.
Well, rest assured, you're going to have a lot of support from back here and everybody that follows the ProVelo Super League. Thanks for joining us tonight. We can't wait to see you in the commentary box on Sunday.
Yeah, thank you. I've got my highlighters ready and a big spreadsheet in case you couldn't tell.
Love it. Awesome. Sarah Gigante, Till, she's going to be joining us on Sunday. It's going to be a lot of fun in commentary.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, see you, Says. Yeah, we'll see you then. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic when she talks about what spreadsheet she's got coming in. I'm sure she'll give us a thing or two, Matt, on the velocity of the peloton and a few different things. If people don't realize, Sarah actually got almost pretty much a perfect score in her VCE. So we're going to be not joined by just one of the most incredible cyclists, but a very incredible brain as well.
Yeah, I think her year 12 score actually even surpassed her VO2 max, and they're both absolutely through the roof. Let's now have a chat to Pat Shaw. Yeah, exactly. Let's have a chat now to Pat Shaw, our last guest for the night, to talk about the Praties team. And Pat, we just had the question from Sarah about any relatives winning. With Dylan Lindsay, his dad won. He's going to try and win. Did you get second in the Warnie and your dad won it in 79?
No, I never. I wish I was on the podium, Matt. No, I
thought you got...
I actually was talking about this in the shop the other day. I've been involved with 6 teammates winning the Melbourne Warrnambool, but unfortunately never myself. It was the race that defied me, and essentially it's what separates my father and I, so he still holds the crown. But I think Hilton Clark, Junior and Senior, may have the crown in that. But all the best to Dylan on the weekend, and probably more importantly, what Dylan's doing for the domestic cycling talent in Australia as a coach has been pretty remarkable as well. And if I can quickly say, Sarah, all the best with your recovery too. And I don't really think you guys need me to talk much about the race. I think Sarah broke it down perfectly, actually.
Well, Shori, hi, how are you going? Good to see you. Firstly, well, the big question we have, and the question on many people's lips, is how are you going to manage the top 3 in this Road to the World Tour, all being on the Praties team? You've got, and not just those who are in the top 3, you know, you've got a huge team there that are outside. Sophia Salmons, Talia Appleton, Sophie Ma, they just make up the top 3, but you've got a whole other field of, you know, potential riders that can take out this contract. How are you managing it?
Oh, look, Tills, we all know that the contract is as a part and parcel of the series, and it's a phenomenal opportunity. I guess that I'm kind of looking at it from a managerial perspective, as if I was a rider as well, and contract and winning the series, but not understanding that by there being a contract on the table and 4th and 5th as well. So I don't think it's a lost race. Okay. A bit of a paved pathway to begin with, still going to be hard work. And I think it's important that the individual that does win it is ready. But for everyone that's competing in this ProVelo Super League, there is also a significant exposure to World Tour teams and to professional teams, maybe not just World Tour, Pro Continental as well, in the women's international scene as well now. So more glass half full than glass half empty approach for sure. And yes, we have a strong team. I think we've always had a strong team at every team we've had every year, for Praties or Bridge Lane or Avanti Pro Racing or Isoways Sports, all the years, whether it be men's or women's. The important thing is to go in with a plan and understand that as teammates, you are better with each other. And so even though they've all got chances to win, probably none of them have chances to win without the help of each other. So I really don't see it as a challenge to navigate that side of it. Probably navigating the hardest part to navigate in a race like this is the opposition.
And we're having a little bit of trouble with the line is breaking up slightly, Pat. So I'm going to ask 2 questions to get the answer from you. And quickly, Hilton Clark Senior, he got fastest time twice, but didn't win it. Hilton Clark Junior did win it. I just had to check the stats on that one for you. If you can still hear us, Pat, looks like you might have frozen. I'm keen to know who you think is the favourite to win on Sunday and why the Praties team has decided this year just to focus on a women's team.
All right, so I picked up the second part, Matt, and you can repeat the first bit. You probably corrected me on my wrong judgment call on Hilton and Junior. Why we focused on the women's was pretty simple, really, was because we feel the demand there and the requirement of support is more important at this current point in domestic cycling. At no point do we believe that the support for the men is not needed, but we think that it's a very delicate time for women's cycling in domestic Australia. We also believe that the saturation of talent within our domestic scene is phenomenal, not only of those riders that we were able to secure for our team, but also the competition. And I think that now is really a time for financial backing and support for women's cycling in particular, but women's sport also in Australia, where we have such incredible talented athletes across different sports, not just cycling. It's just that we have a passion for cycling. And I think we as a nation can dominate women's sport globally in all facets.
I hope you're right on all those fronts in terms of the development and the domination. Okay, so who's going to dominate on Sunday? Who wins? Who's your top three?
Well, I'd just like to give you the top three of all our riders, but
okay,
no,
here you
I
go.
think
I'm going to phrase the question differently then. Who's the top three, excluding anybody from Praties?
Well, to give you an idea, last year my biggest fear was Lucy Stewart. She won the race. She could win the race in multiple facets. That's always the most dangerous rider to go to battle with. So top of my list has to be Alyssa Praties, because if she recovers from her concussion, she's a rider that can win in multiple ways. Certainly equal top favourite for me outside of our team is Ali Anderson. I think that what Ali has done at the end of last year has sat down, taken a real hard look in the mirror and realised that enough's not just enough. You've got to do the extra bits. She's done that. She's won a national individual time trial championship. Technically, I think she podiumed in the elite, although she wasn't given the medal on her time based over the same distance. So it shows just how good she's going. She gained herself a ride at Tour Down Under. I thought she was impressive there in a week where potentially she didn't have great legs. So those are my two standouts. I think you can never underestimate Caitlin Nicholson. She was a fantastic team rider at our team last year. And to manage her was frillless. It was just so easy. But she's a rider that will ride the distance. And if it's quick on the line, I think Sarah really nailed it perfectly. I think Keely Bennett, obviously, we all know how talented Keely is. And if it comes down to a bunch sprint, she's going to be a very big option. And Adette Lynch as well will be quick on the line. So they're the ones outside of our team. Our team has a variety of opportunities and options, and the biggest thing will be about bringing ourselves all together on the day.
Well, good luck on Sunday. Thanks for joining us. And I know that this is a race that you get super excited about, and your dad's still got the measure. Go, Dennis.
100%. That's forever, mate.
Good one. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Tills. Thanks, Matt.
Bye, Pat.
He does love the Melbourne to Warrnambool. Not as much as you, though, Matilda.
Yeah. Now, Keenan, I can't let you go without getting a pick. Who is your men's and women's? Who wins?
Oh, who wins? I am. Oh, geez. I'm going to go Blake Agnoletto in the men's. Okay. Yeah. Who's you're thinking music? You can come back to me. And in the women's, I'm scrolling down to the start list. I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Talia Appleton.
Good call. Yeah.
Okay. Come on.
Okay. I'm going to go Ali Anderson. She would have recovered well from the Tour Down Under. Feeling really good. She'll go the distance. And I think I want to say Kian Watts, but ProVelo. I think Tristan Saunders had this was a nightmare race for him last year. He was the rider for Bridge Lane. They missed the break. It was a nightmare of a day for men's Bridge Lane last year. And so I think Tristan Saunders comes back with a lot of vengeance, and I think he can get it done.
Oh, it's going to be a good one. You and I are going to be getting to commentate both the women's race and the men's race. It's the men on Saturday, the women on Sunday. It all kicks off at midday. It'll be 12 till 3 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time on SBS and on SBS On Demand. I look forward to seeing you on the weekend, Tills.
Matt, 6 hours of national coverage of cycling. It's going to be absolutely unreal. And so for all the information, the start list, the videos, head to ProVeloSuperLeague.com, subscribe to our YouTube. The more we grow that, we can stream more of the coverage there as well. So share it with your mates, put it up on the show socials. If you want to see us with different guests, we're really open to anyone's suggestions or who you want us to have on or feedback, anything like that. This is the People's Tour. So, yeah, let us know who you want to hear from. And, we're looking forward to seeing you all on over the weekend.
See you all on Saturday. See you later.
Bye for now.